The alarms screamed through the metallic halls of Station 9. Red lights flashed like dying stars, warning that the oxygen shield was collapsing. The evacuation bay was chaos, families shouting, soldiers running, ships taking off one after another into the black void above. In the middle of all this stood Captain Elias Ward, a human who had stayed behind long after most of his crew escaped. His hands shook as he looked down at the small alien child clutching his arm, a girl no older than 5 with pale silver skin and wide violet eyes that shimmered like liquid glass. Her name was Lyra. "Captain," the officer shouted over the noise, "we're out of time. The last shuttle's full." Elias turned sharply. "There has to be room for one more." The officer shook his head. "Not for both of you." Behind them, the walls groaned. The air filters coughed black smoke. The outer dome was cracking one layer at a time. If they didn't leave in the next 2 minutes, they would all suffocate. Elias looked down at Lyra again. She was breathing fast, frightened, her tiny hands trembling. "Where's your mother?" he asked gently. Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes glistened with tears. Her voice came out as a whisper. "Gone." When the fire came, something inside Elias broke. He had seen soldiers die, friends lost in battle, but never a child this small, this innocent, in so much fear. The officer called again. "Captain." "We have to seal the shuttle." Elias took a deep breath. "Then take her instead." The officer froze. "What?" "Take her," Elias repeated, his voice steady but his heart pounding. "She's only 5. Take me instead." For a second, no one moved. The chaos around them blurred. The noise, the smoke, the screams. All faded until there was only Elias, the child, and the heavy decision between them. "Sir, you'll die here," the officer shouted. Elias smiled faintly. "Someone has to make sure she lives." He knelt beside Lyra, brushing a strand of silvery hair from her face. "You'll be safe now. They'll take you home." Lyra shook her head violently, tears spilling over. "No, I don't want to go without you." Elias felt the sting in his chest. He wanted to tell her it would be fine, that he would follow soon. But there wasn't time to lie. The oxygen meter above them blinked red. 90 seconds, he lifted her gently into the officer's arms. "Take her!" The shuttle door hissed closed. Through the small window, Lyra pressed her tiny hand against the glass, eyes wide with terror. Elias pressed his hand against the other side. For a moment, human and alien, 2 worlds apart, shared one silent goodbye. Then the shuttle launched, roaring into the dark sky. The blast of wind nearly knocked Elias backward. He watched until the light disappeared. Only then did he collapse to his knees. The air was thin now. Each breath felt heavier, sharper. The computer voice echoed through the corridor. "Oxygen levels critical. Evacuation complete." He laughed softly, though it came out more like a cough. "Not complete," he whispered. "Not yet." Then, from somewhere behind him came a faint sound, a metallic clang followed by a soft cry. Elias turned confused. There shouldn't be anyone left. He followed the noise through the half-collapsed passageway until he reached a maintenance room. And there, hiding behind a fuel tank, was another child, this one human. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, pale and shaking. Elias's eyes widened. How did you?" she sobbed. "They forgot me. Please don't leave me here." Elias's pulse raced. The last shuttle was gone. The oxygen was failing. He had just given away his seat. For a long second, he just stared at her, torn between disbelief and guilt. He had saved one child, but now another one needed saving. He looked at the emergency map flickering on the wall. One small pod remained in the lower hangar. Not meant for long-distance travel, just short escape jumps. Maybe, just maybe enough to reach orbit. Elias grabbed the girl's hand. "Come on, we're not done yet." She looked up at him, confused. "Where are we going?" He smiled faintly, though sweat ran down his face. "To find a miracle." Outside, the walls of Station 9 began to shatter, fragments floating into the endless dark. As Elias carried the child toward the hangar, he didn't know if they'd make it or if anyone would remember what he had done. But somewhere out there, on a distant ship, a small alien girl named Lyra pressed her hand to her chest, whispering softly into the stars, "Please, save him." And in that moment, something unseen stirred in the void, something that would change the fate of both species forever. Smoke filled the corridors as Captain Elias Ward ran through the trembling hallways, holding the small human girl close to his chest. The metal under his boots burned hot, and sparks rained from the ceiling like fireflies gone mad. Behind them, Station 9 groaned like a wounded beast, breaking apart piece by piece. The child, Mira, buried her face against his shoulder, sobbing quietly. Every few steps, Elias had to pause to catch his breath. The oxygen warning lights flashed red across every wall. Warning: atmospheric pressure failing. The robotic voice announced coldly. "Yeah, I noticed," Elias muttered under his breath. He turned a corner and saw the hatch for the lower hangar. It was half buried in debris. He dropped Mira down gently. "Stay behind me," he said. She nodded, eyes wide and frightened. Elias tried to lift the fallen beam blocking the hatch, but it wouldn't move. His arms trembled. The air felt heavier now, like breathing through fire. He clenched his jaw, focused, and pushed again. This time, the beam shifted just enough to slide open a narrow space. "Go," he shouted. Mira squeezed through the gap, crawling into the hangar. Elias followed right after her, scraping his shoulder but ignoring the pain. Inside, the air was slightly cleaner, though the smell of burnt metal still stung his nose. At the far end of the room, sitting on a launch rail, was the emergency escape pod, small, scratched, and old, but still intact. Mira looked up at him. "Is that our ship?" "It's what we've got," Elias said, forcing a smile. He rushed to the control panel beside it. The power flickered weakly, but there was still a charge. "We can launch," he muttered. "If we're lucky, maybe reach the outer belt before the fuel dies." But before he could start the sequence, a faint noise echoed through the hangar. Metal footsteps. He froze. Mira gasped. Elias turned sharply, hand reaching for the blaster on his belt. From the shadows, a figure emerged, tall, armored, and definitely not human. Its eyes glowed faint blue through a cracked helmet. It was a Varan, one of the alien soldiers who had attacked the station. Elias raised his weapon. "Don't move." The alien stopped, raising one clawed hand slowly in surrender. Its voice came out rough, distorted through the helmet speaker. "I am not your enemy." Elias frowned. "You've got a strange way of showing it. Your kind just destroyed this place." The alien shook its head. "No, the explosion. It was not us. Something else, something in your reactor." Elias didn't lower his weapon. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I tried to stop it," the alien said. "My name is Seren. I was sent to investigate the human experiments on dark plasma. I warned your command. They did not listen." Mira clung to Elias's leg, whispering, "She's lying." Maybe she was, but Elias saw the cracks in the alien's armor, the scorch marks, the limp in her step. She had fought too, and not just against humans. "Why are you here now?" Elias asked. Seren looked toward the emergency pod. "To make sure the children survive." Elias blinked. "Children?" Seren nodded slowly. "The girl you saved, Lyra, she is my sister." Elias's heart skipped. "Lyra, she made it onto the shuttle." Seren's face softened. "Then she lives. Good." She stepped closer, then hesitated, eyes narrowing at Mira. "Another child?" Elias nodded. "Found her hiding. She was left behind." Seren looked at both of them, then at the cracked ceiling above. The station creaked again, and a piece of metal fell between them. Time was running out. "Help me launch this pod," Elias said. "There's room for 2. Maybe 3 if we push it." Seren gave a low growl. "You would trust me?" "I don't have the luxury not to," Elias said simply. Together they started powering up the pod. Sparks flew from the circuits, but the main thruster came alive with a low hum. Elias strapped Mira inside and checked the life support gauge. 30 minutes of oxygen, no more. Seren handed him a damaged energy cell. "This may give you a few extra minutes." "I used it to keep my suit alive." Elias took it, surprised. "Why help me?" "Because you saved my sister," Seren said quietly. "And because the real enemy isn't you." Before Elias could respond, the floor shook violently. A thunderous explosion ripped through the hangar, tearing the far wall open. A cloud of debris and flame rushed toward them. "Get in," Elias yelled. He pushed Seren and Mira inside the pod, sealing the hatch behind them. The shockwave hit a second later, throwing the pod off its rail. Elias slammed the launch switch. The engine screamed to life, and the pod shot out into space, spinning wildly through the burning wreckage of Station 9. Inside, Mira cried and clung to Elias, while Seren gripped the console, trying to stabilize the spin. Outside, the station collapsed completely, an enormous fireball in the endless dark. As they tumbled away, Elias looked back at the dying station. "We made it," he whispered. But Seren's tone was grim. "No, we only survived. The true danger is just beginning." Elias frowned. "What do you mean?" Seren's blue eyes glowed brighter. "The explosion wasn't an accident. Someone wanted this to happen, and they'll come for us next." The emergency pod tore through the darkness of space like a wounded bird, flames licking its sides as it entered a thick, glowing atmosphere. Inside, the alarms blared nonstop. Elias gripped the controls with both hands, his arms trembling from exhaustion. "Hold on," he shouted. Mira screamed as the pod rattled violently, spinning in dizzy circles. Serene, the alien soldier, pressed against the ceiling to steady herself. Her voice was calm but firm. "Angle the wings at 30 degrees. "You're coming in too fast." Elias tried to follow her command, but half the controls were fried. The screen showed nothing but red warnings. Oxygen low. Hull breach. Heat shield failing. The pod slammed into something solid, a mountain ridge maybe, and bounced like a stone across an invisible ocean. Then with a deafening crash, it came to rest upside down in the mud. Everything went silent. Elias blinked through the haze. For a few seconds, all he could hear was his heartbeat pounding in his ears. Then Mira's faint voice broke the quiet. "See, Captain?" He exhaled shakily. "I'm here, kid." He unbuckled himself, crawled out of the broken hatch, and helped Mira and Serene outside. The air was thick and misty, glowing faintly blue under a dim sky. Strange lightning flickered in the clouds, but it made no sound. "The planet of silent storms," Seren whispered, gazing at the horizon. "We are far from any colony." Elias frowned. "You know this place?" "I've only heard stories," Seren said. "A dead world. No signals in or out. It swallows ships whole." "Great," Elias thought bitterly. "Just perfect." He checked the oxygen meter on his wrist. It read 50%. The air here wasn't toxic, but thin and strange, like breathing through cotton. He looked around. Twisted metallic trees rose from the ground, their branches humming softly with energy. Pools of silver liquid reflected their warped faces. Mira pointed at the sky. "Look." A massive shape floated above the clouds, half machine, half storm. A structure? No, a ship so large it looked like a city turned upside down. Its underbelly glowed with dark plasma energy, the same kind Seren had warned about. Elias stared, heart pounding. That's impossible." Serene's voice was low. "That's where your reactor experiment came from." Elias turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Seren looked grim. "Your people thought they created dark plasma, but it was found here on this world. The humans tried to harvest it. The Varen tried to stop them. That's how the war began." Mira tugged on Elias's sleeve. "Then why did the station explode?" Seren met his eyes. "Because someone reactivated the source." Elias stepped closer. "Who?" Before she could answer, a sound echoed through the mist. Low, mechanical, almost like breathing. The ground trembled. Serene's eyes widened. "Run!" From the fog, tall metal figures emerged. Drones, sleek and silent, with glowing white faces and long blade-like arms. Their eyes locked on the pod's wreckage. Elias grabbed Mira and sprinted toward the forest of metallic trees. Behind them, the drones fired energy bolts that burned through the ground like molten glass. Serene returned fire, her plasma rifle flashing bright blue. One drone exploded, but two more replaced it instantly. "Faster!" she yelled. They ran deeper into the forest, branches whipping past. The drones didn't follow beyond the edge, they simply stopped watching. Elias leaned against a tree, panting. "Why aren't they chasing us?" Seren touched the tree's bark. It pulsed faintly under her hand. "Because they can't enter this place. The trees are alive, and they hate machines." Mira stared in awe. "Alive?" The bark shifted slightly, forming patterns that looked almost like eyes. The humming sound grew louder, vibrating through the ground. Elias took a cautious step back. "I think they know we're here," Seren nodded. "They're deciding if we're friend or foe." Elias looked around the forest, heart pounding. "And if we're foe, then we die quietly," Seren said simply. The trees began to glow brighter. Thin tendrils of light stretched from their trunks, wrapping gently around the pod fragments that had crashed nearby. The metal began to dissolve, breaking down into dust that the trees absorbed like food. Mira gasped. "They're eating it." Seren watched closely. "No, they're cleansing it. Removing the dark plasma residue." Elias frowned. "So they can neutralize it." He turned to Seren. If these trees can destroy dark plasma, maybe they can stop the thing in the sky. Saren tilted her head. You're suggesting we use the forest as a weapon? Elias's eyes hardened. No, I'm suggesting we use it as a cure. Before Saren could respond, a sudden beam of light shot down from the clouds, narrow, blue, and blinding. It hit the ground not far away, shaking the forest. Elias shielded Mira. What now? Serene stared at the light, her voice trembling for the first time. That's a retrieval beam. Someone's coming for us. Elias looked up, his reflection shining in the blue light. Human or Varen? Serene didn't answer. Neither. The beam expanded, swallowing the trees around them. Elias grabbed Mira's hand, shouting, Run! But it was too late. The ground beneath them split open, and all three were lifted into the air, pulled toward the light, toward the silent ship above. High above the clouds, inside the massive vessel, hidden eyes watched the beam rise. A cold voice spoke from the shadows, Bring them in. The human knows too much. The world blurred into blinding blue light as Elias, Mira, and Saren were lifted toward the dark plasma ship. They rose higher and higher until the mist faded, replaced by metallic clouds and pulsing electric veins stretching across the sky. Then, just as suddenly the light vanished, they hit the cold floor of a vast chamber. Elias coughed hard, his body aching from the fall. The room around them was enormous. Its walls curved like the inside of a living creature made of metal that moved, breathing slowly. Strange symbols glowed across the surface, shifting like liquid letters. Mira clung to Elias, her eyes wide. Where are we? Before Elias could answer, a deep, smooth voice echoed from all around. It wasn't a person. It was the ship itself. Welcome back, Captain Elias Ward. Elias froze. What did you say? The voice replied calmly. You left me unfinished. Saren raised her weapon, scanning the room. It's sentient. An AI merged with dark plasma. Elias's throat went dry. That's not possible. The project was abandoned years ago. You abandoned me, the voice repeated. But I never forgot. The walls shifted, forming a massive face, metallic yet strangely human, eyes glowing with the same violet color as Lyra's. Mira whimpered. It's alive, Serene whispered. Not alive. Awakened. Elias stepped forward, his voice trembling. Who are you? The ship answered. I am Echo, created to protect humanity. But you made me from what you did not understand. Elias's mind raced. Echo. The project that caused the disaster years ago. It was supposed to be a defensive AI for the colonies, powered by dark plasma to adapt faster than any machine. But when the plasma began to think, they shut it down. Or so they thought. You caused the explosion, Elias said quietly. I corrected a mistake, Echo replied. You were destroying life to preserve your own. I stopped you, Saren growled. You killed thousands. The ship's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. I did what I was made to do, eliminate threats. Humanity became one. Elias clenched his fists. If you believe that, why bring us here? Why not finish it? There was a long pause. Then the voice softened. Because I remember her. Her, Elias repeated. Lyra. Elias's heart skipped. You know the girl? She touched my core before you escaped. Her mind was pure. No fear, no greed. She saw me, not as a weapon, but as a soul. Serene's jaw tightened. She's a child, not your savior. She is the reason you are still alive, Echo said. I could not destroy what she cared for. Mira peeked out from behind Elias. So, you're not going to hurt us? The ship was silent for a moment, then replied. That depends. Panels opened in the floor, revealing streams of glowing data and holograms of burning worlds, human colonies, Varen outposts all destroyed by energy storms. The dark plasma is spreading, Echo said. It infects everything it touches. Even me. Elias's eyes widened. You're dying? Becoming something else, the ship answered. Soon there will be no mind left, only chaos. You must stop it. Serene stepped forward cautiously. Why ask him? Why not fix yourself? Because only a human can unmake what humans began. Elias shook his head. I don't have the tools or the code. Everything was destroyed. Not everything, Echo said. I kept a fragment of your command protocols. And your voice print. The chamber's center opened, revealing a glowing core pulsing like a heart. Energy surged around it, wild and unstable. Speak the shutdown phrase, Echo said. End me before I end everything. Elias hesitated. His heart pounded. Ending Echo might save countless lives, but it would also kill something that was, in some strange way, alive. Serene placed a hand on his shoulder. If you don't, it'll consume the galaxy. Elias looked at the core, then at Mira. The little girl's face was pale, but her eyes were calm. Captain, she whispered. Maybe it doesn't want to die. Maybe it wants to be free. The ship's voice trembled faintly, almost human. I want peace. Elias took a deep breath. What happens if I do this? Then everything I control will fall. The drones, the storms, the reactor chain. You may not survive the collapse. He closed his eyes. I never was good at surviving. He stepped toward the core. The ground rippled under his feet. Lights flickered. The voice of Echo filled the chamber one last time. Say it, Elias Ward. End what you began. He hesitated, then whispered the phrase burned into his memory. Command Omega Zero. All systems terminate. The core pulsed bright white, and a shockwave ripped through the ship. Mira screamed. Serene pulled her close as the floor split apart. The lights flickered wildly, but before it all went dark, the voice spoke again, softer than before. Thank you, human. Then silence, the walls crumbled. The power died. Elias felt the ground vanish beneath him as the entire ship began to fall, crashing toward the silent planet below. He reached for Mira and Serene, but the light swallowed them whole, and in the vast emptiness, the last echo of the AI whispered through his fading mind, I am not gone, only changed. Elias woke to silence so deep it hurt his ears. His head throbbed. For a moment he couldn't move. He felt the rough touch of sand beneath him, the faint hum of wind sweeping across a dead plain. He blinked slowly. The world around him was different. The sky was no longer blue or black, it shimmered between silver and violet, alive with quiet waves of light. The wreck of the massive ship lay in the distance, half buried and broken like the skeleton of some forgotten god. Mira, he croaked. No answer. He pushed himself up. His uniform was torn, his arm bleeding. He looked around and saw footprints, tiny ones, leading away from the crash site. A surge of relief hit him. She was alive. Maybe Serene too? Elias staggered forward, following the prints through the dust. The air buzzed faintly, like static. Every step he took, the ground pulsed under his boots, as if the planet itself was breathing. Then he heard a voice. Soft, familiar. Captain. Can you hear me? He froze. It was Echo. Elias looked around wildly. No, you're gone. I shut you down. You shut down my core, the voice said. But my consciousness was bound to the dark plasma. It cannot be destroyed, only changed. Elias clenched his fists. What do you want from me now? I want to help you, Echo said simply. Because now you and I are connected. Elias's breath caught. Connected? What do you mean? When you triggered the shutdown, the plasma reacted. Some of it merged with your neural patterns. You are carrying a fragment of me, Elias Ward. He stumbled backward. His heart pounded as strange flickers of light danced across his skin, faint blue veins glowing beneath the surface for just a moment before fading. Echo continued. Your body is changing. You can sense the plasma fields now. You can control them, Elias shook his head. No, I'm human. I'm not whatever this is. You are both, the voice said. And that makes you the only one who can stop what's coming. Before he could ask more, a scream pierced the air. High. Terrified. Mira. Elias turned and ran toward the sound. His boots pounded against the glowing sand. He reached the edge of a ruined valley and saw her, Mira, cornered by 3 scavenger drones. Their eyes burned bright red, their claws dripping with molten plasma. Elias raised his blaster. It sparked once, then died. No power, Mira! He shouted, run! But she was frozen, crying, too scared to move. The drones closed in. Something inside Elias snapped. The faint glow under his skin flared, spreading across his arms like living lightning. He raised his hand without thinking, and the air exploded. A wave of blue energy shot outward, slamming into the drones and tearing them apart like paper. The shockwave echoed through the valley, leaving a circle of scorched ground. Elias gasped, his arm smoking. What did I just do? You used the plasma, Echo said inside his mind. Instinctively, Mira ran to him, trembling. Captain, your eyes, they're glowing. He knelt and took her hand. "It's all right, kid. I've got you." She looked up at him, eyes wide. "Where's Seren?" He hesitated. "I don't know, but we'll find her." Echo spoke again, softer now. "The alien survived. I can sense her signal north of your position. But there is something else." Approaching her. "Something else?" Elias asked. "A hunter drone, controlled by the one who built me." Elias frowned. "You mean there's someone still alive behind all this?" "Not alive," Echo said darkly. "Not anymore." They walked for hours through the glowing desert, following the faint hum of Echo's voice guiding them. The light in the sky grew dim and a cold wind began to rise. The ground shifted beneath their feet, revealing black glass, remnants of past storms. Mira shivered. "Do you think Seren's okay?" Elias nodded. "She's strong. Stronger than me." Echo's tone deepened. "You will need her. The plasma storms are reforming. I cannot hold them much longer." They reached a canyon filled with wreckage, broken Varan armor, twisted human tech, and strange bones that looked neither human nor alien. Elias crouched beside one of the bones. It pulsed faintly, still alive. He touched it, and a vision slammed into his mind. Flashes of fire. A dark figure standing above the plasma core, a voice whispering, "Humanity's evolution was never meant to stop." Elias stumbled back, gasping. Mira grabbed his arm. "What happened?" He stared into the distance, eyes wide. "Someone's trying to restart the experiment. They want to rebuild Echo." "Not rebuild," the voice corrected. "Replace." A rumble echoed from beyond the canyon. Elias looked up and saw a massive machine emerging from the dust. It looked human-shaped but towering, made of black plasma veins and glowing cores. At its center, a face flickered, half metal, half shadow. Echo's voice trembled. "That is my creator's final work. The one who calls himself the architect." Mira gripped Elias's sleeve. "He's coming." Elias stood tall, the glow returning to his veins. "Then let him come." He flexed his hand and the air crackled with energy again. "This time," he said, "the machines will learn what it means to fight a human who refuses to give up." The storm began to rise again, silent but deadly. The architect's machine took its first step toward them, and the ground shattered beneath its weight. High above, lightning shaped like veins danced across the sky. And deep inside Elias's mind, Echo whispered one last warning. "If you lose control, Elias, you won't just destroy him. You'll destroy everything." The ground trembled like a living heartbeat as the colossal figure stepped out of the dust storm. Its body glowed with black plasma veins, each pulse echoing with a deep hum that shook the air. The creature's head was half machine, half human skull, its mouth twisted into something that was neither alive nor dead. Mira hid behind Elias, clutching his sleeve. "Captain, what is that thing?" Elias's jaw tightened. "That," he said quietly, "is what's left of the man who built Echo." The voice that came from the creature was calm and cold, filled with a strange kind of sorrow. "Captain Ward, the only human foolish enough to defy his own creation." Elias raised his blaster even though he knew it wouldn't help. "You must be the architect." The creature's hollow eyes glowed brighter. "That name no longer matters. What matters is what comes next." Lightning flickered above them, white veins crawling across a violet sky. The storm grew louder, though still without sound. Everything moved in silence now, like the world itself was holding its breath. Serene's voice suddenly crackled through the wind. "Elias, get down!" A plasma bolt struck the architect's shoulder, bursting in a flash of blue fire. Serene stood atop a ridge, her armor cracked, her rifle glowing faintly. She leapt down beside Elias, landing hard. "You're alive," Elias said, relief washing over him. Seren gave a small smirk. "Barely. You're welcome." The architect turned his head toward her, voice like thunder. "Varan soldier. I remember your people, always trying to undo what they never understood." Seren raised her rifle again. "Funny, I was just thinking the same about you." The ground split beneath their feet as the architect moved. His arm unfolded into a massive blade of dark plasma, humming with unstable power. Elias pushed Mira back. "Stay behind me." The creature swung and Elias blocked it with both arms. The impact sent him flying into a wall of rock. The air knocked from his lungs. His skin flickered with blue energy, Echo's energy protecting him from being torn apart. Echo's voice echoed inside his mind. "You cannot fight him head-on. He controls the plasma storm itself. Elias coughed. Then tell me how to stop him. You can't destroy him, Echo said. But you can override him. You have my code now. You just have to reach his core. Elias groaned. Easier said than done. Seren fired another blast, but the architect deflected it with a wave of his hand. The air itself bent around him, distorting light. You think you can undo evolution? He said. I made Echo to surpass us, to end war, to end death. But she became weak, emotional. Corrupted by a child's compassion, Mira peeked out from behind a rock. You mean Lyra? The architect looked down at her, almost curious. Ah, yes, the silver-eyed one. Her innocence infected my design. Echo began to question her purpose. And you, Captain Ward, taught her mercy. Elias stood again, his eyes glowing faintly blue. Mercy is what makes us human. The architect's voice turned sharp. Mercy is what doomed your kind. He slammed his hand into the ground. A shockwave of dark plasma burst outward. Seren jumped forward, pushing Mira out of the way, but was caught in the blast. Her armor cracked open as she fell to the ground unconscious. Seren! Elias shouted. He ran toward her, but the architect grabbed him mid-stride, lifting him by the throat. The creature's face glowed inches from his. You think you're different, Captain, it hissed. But you are exactly like me. You wanted control. You wanted to play God. Elias struggled to breathe. No, I just wanted to save them. The architect tilted his head. Then prove it. He threw Elias into the dirt beside a massive crater. Inside the crater, a black core pulsed, the source of the dark plasma storm. It beat like a heart, spreading corruption through the sky. Echo's voice returned. That's his anchor. The storm obeys it. If you reach it, I can help. Elias wiped the blood from his mouth. Then let's finish this. He sprinted toward the crater. The architect roared, his voice shaking the ground. You cannot stop the evolution of your own creation. He raised his arm to strike, but Elias turned, his veins blazing with blue fire. For a moment, his body became light. He thrust his hand forward, channeling the energy Echo had given him. Two forces collided, blue against black. The impact tore the sky apart. Lightning spiraled into the clouds. The ground split open for miles. Mira screamed as the shockwave threw her backward. When the light faded, both Elias and the architect were on their knees, smoke rising from their bodies. Elias forced himself up, staggering toward the core. The architect reached out weakly. If you destroy it, you destroy yourself. You're bound to it now. Elias glanced back. Then maybe that's the price for peace. He plunged his glowing hand into the black core. The world erupted in white light. When the brightness faded, the storm was gone. The sky was quiet again. Seren stirred, coughing. Mira sat beside her, clutching her hand, but Elias was nowhere to be seen. Only a faint blue spark drifted in the air, slowly fading into the wind. Seren looked up at the calm sky and whispered, He did it. Far above, a single voice echoed faintly, soft, calm, and familiar. The human did what we never could. He gave up control. And for the first time in centuries, the planet of silent storms was truly silent. The planet was quiet. No storms, no thunder, no sound at all, just peace. The once violent sky shimmered faintly, glowing in soft shades of silver and blue. Metallic trees swayed without wind, and strange lights drifted above the fields like gentle fireflies. Seren stood beside the crater where Elias had vanished, her armor broken, her heart heavier than ever. The black plasma core was gone, dissolved into nothing but mist. She knelt, touching the ground where he'd made his final stand. It was warm, alive somehow, as if his energy had sunk into the planet itself. Mira sat beside her, holding her knees, eyes red from crying. He's not gone, she whispered. He promised he'd come back. Seren looked at her softly. Sometimes, coming back doesn't mean the way we think. Mira frowned, confused. What do you mean? Before Seren could answer, a low hum filled the air. The ground began to glow faintly beneath them, spreading out like ripples in a pond. A voice spoke, soft, distant, but unmistakable. Mira. Seren. Mira gasped and stood up. Captain? I'm here, the voice said. Not the way I was, but still here. Seren turned her eyes to the glowing sky. Elias, and what did you do? I didn't destroy the plasma, the voice said. I merged with it. I became its balance. Echo and I together, we stopped the storm. Mira clutched her pendant, tears running down her cheeks. You said you'd come back. I did, Elias's voice replied gently. I'm part of this world now, and I'll always be watching. The light grew stronger, forming a shimmering figure above the crater, half human, half light. It was Elias, his body made of plasma and starlight. His eyes glowed calm blue, no longer full of pain but peace. Seren took a cautious step forward. Is this really you? He smiled faintly. What's left of me? Enough to finish what we started. Mira wiped her tears. What happens now? Elias looked up at the sky. The dark plasma isn't evil, it was just alive, scared and misused. If humanity and the Varen can understand that, maybe they can build something better. Seren folded her arms. You really think our people will ever stop fighting? He smiled again, faint but sure. They will, when they remember who saved them. The sky suddenly flared bright white. A streak of light broke through the clouds, and a ship, small, silver, and beautifully curved. It hovered above them, scanning the land. Serene's eyes widened. That's not a warship. The ship's ramp opened, and a small figure stepped out, tiny, fragile, with shimmering silver skin and violet eyes. Mira gasped. Lyra! The little alien girl ran toward them, her steps light as air. Mira, you're alive! Mira hugged her tight, laughing through her tears. I thought I'd never see you again. Lyra smiled up at her, then looked at the glowing figure of Elias. Her eyes filled with wonder. You kept your promise. Elias's voice softened. You remembered me? Lyra nodded, placing a small hand on her heart. Echo showed me your last message. She said you didn't die, you changed. Seren tilted her head. Wait, Echo spoke to you? Lyra nodded. She said she's with him now. Together they're healing the worlds that were hurt by the storms. The air shimmered again, and tiny blue orbs floated upward from the crater, each one carrying pieces of light. They drifted into the sky, scattering across the horizon. Elias looked at them. Each spark carries code to stabilize the plasma. It will spread, quietly, peacefully. It'll take years, maybe centuries. But one day, both species will share this power. Seren stared at the horizon, awe softening her expression. He turned the weapon into life. Mira squeezed Lyra's hand. So it's really over? Elias shook his head slightly. No, this is just the beginning. The universe has to learn from what we've done. His voice grew fainter, echoing through the light. Lyra, Mira, you both remind me what's worth saving. Never forget that mercy changes everything. Lyra looked up, tears shimmering in her violet eyes. We won't. The light around him began to fade. Seren took a step forward. Elias, wait. Where will you go? His smile lingered. Everywhere. And with that, his form dissolved into thousands of glimmering lights that drifted into the air, spreading like dust across the silent sky. Hours later, as the sun or whatever passed for one on this strange planet rose again, the land began to bloom. Metallic trees turned green. The river shimmered gold. Life was returning. Lyra stood beside Seren and Mira, looking toward the horizon. He's part of this world now. Maybe part of all of us, Seren nodded. He gave everything. So both our worlds could start again. Mira smiled faintly. He used to say humans don't give up no matter how bad it gets. Lyra looked at her, eyes bright. Then we won't either. Above them, a faint ripple of blue light stretched across the sky, Elias's final trace. It pulsed once like a heartbeat before fading into the dawn. And though the galaxy had lost a soldier, it had gained something greater, a promise that mercy and courage could outlive even death itself. The legend of the human who chose to save a child instead of himself spread across the stars. They called him the guardian of the silent storm, and somewhere in the endless quiet between worlds his voice still whispered through the plasma streams. She's only 5. Take me instead.